Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.
My physician suggested I buy a place like this to retire to, but I told him, Doctor, no. I've never fancied these sort of places. He said never say never again, that it was a view to a kill for. He went on and on about how he had a golden eye for real estate, and that someone's home is more than a place to protect you from the skyfall. Plus, this kind of place screams privacy. It's for your eyes only. At least consider it before it's too late. You only live twice, he joked, referencing the near-fatal accident I sustained that brought me to him the previous time I was here. I think we'll all agree I probably should stop now. Besides, most of the others can't really fit here. Too many references to death. Moonraker. In case this little exercise wasn't enough of a clue, this game is about spies. Welcome to the home of evil havoc agent Ruby LaRouge. Or Ruby LaRouge, if that makes it clearer, or to some funnier. Her home is built on a cliffside, on, I believe, a private island, scenic ocean view, modern design, tons of natural light, secret spy hideout, which has rather complex security for practical use. It also has far too many communal living areas, for a house occupied by one evil super spy and their cat. Oh yeah, forgot. You're part of the rival spy organization, presumably the good guys, or as good as the spies can be, and you have to stop her from doing in more of your agency's agents. Problem is, it's her turf, and she's left you some surprises. She traps you in her house and gives you some puzzles to test you. MIA's most resourceful agent. So, it's a puzzle game. Sort of point-and-click adventure game, at least in terms of movement. You click to transition from area to area, and your view zooms towards points of puzzle interest. But you never see Agent A, which kind of makes it like a hidden object game. If I remember correctly, it kind of reminds me of a much more bright and breezy Lighthouse. Or maybe Puzzle Agent? But the transitions between areas are more dynamic and impressive. It's as though the areas are 3D, but you're not given free access to them, perhaps to cut down on the processing and graphical power required to run the game. Plus less stress. The fixed viewpoint means a lot of times there will be a wall you never see. Sometimes the 3D has 2D embellishments overlain. And visually this game does look rather nice. They do a lot with little. That incoming light makes for a gorgeous house. And the modern design and sometimes angular elements look really sleek. Stylized, at times even cartoony. It really is a great property. Doesn't seem to have a kitchen, but when do spies have time to cook? This game looks pretty enough that sometimes you don't see how low quality some of the 3D elements are. Basic textures and edgy parts, but you don't notice often. Also, this is probably a pro for design. Apart from the presence of the puzzles and sure the underground lair parts, this house is actually surprisingly logically ordered in terms of space, as you will see in the ending panning shot. And lastly, visually, on odd occasions you can see a human being who seems crayon or maybe colored pencil, which is a bit strange when you consider that it isn't a common aspect of the visual style of the game, as well as the fact that this cat has a more traditional outline. Musically, the game has an espionage-themed soundtrack at times, that combined with how lonely you are most of the time, helps the game lean more towards a mysterious feel. Also adding to the mystery, it does have a sound cue that almost unpleasantly sounds like the sound that played in the original Tomb Raider games when finding a secret. But usually it's quiet. Which would make an isolated, empty house feel creepy if it had more darkness. But sure, I suppose at times it can feel tense. A little anyway. It's just this game isn't really geared towards scaring you, and some might argue what's the point of tension if you're not planning on releasing it in some sort of way. But it didn't bother me that much. It is a light-hearted puzzle game after all. It's not like I even expected this level of tension. The game doesn't have much of a story though, apart from what I already relayed, but Agent A does talk to themselves a lot. Quips to your lonesome. Although it's not as smooth, suave, or sophisticated as something Bond would say, our hero at times is a bit cheesy. Lastly, the gameplay. You do use items in a point-and-click fashion, yet our super spy didn't bring any gadgets along to help, which is an especially glaring error when you consider just how many obstacles are locks. Some look like bashing it with a rock would do. You're telling me you couldn't have a lockpick stashed somewhere? Most of the puzzles are quite logical in nature, instead of combination puzzles. The game has a surprising amount of puzzles that rely on memory, something I feel gaming has shied away from, because sometimes you can simply write these numbers down, or use your cell phone to take a picture of this clue, and then use it in the different area with the connected puzzle, which wouldn't be much of a gaming exercise, and the other puzzles connect in fairly simple and obvious ways. Ruby LaRouge must have really wanted to test you, because I doubt elaborate security measures would have had as many clues. The puzzles are fun but simple. I doubt it was worth her effort to set all this up. Sometimes I accidentally solved the puzzle first time round. It's hardly a mental gauntlet. It has infrequent head-scratching moments. The game isn't long, as it took me only 5 hours to complete. Slightly longer than Puzzle Agent. The game is cheap on Steam, however, 130 Rand full price, 13 Rand on sale. That's 2 Rand 60 per hour of gameplay, which is quite nice. And its download size is fairly small, as it only takes up 462 megabytes on the hard drive. And it does work on the Warhorse well enough. I believe the only issue I saw was some stuttering during the transitions between areas. And stereotypically it is kid-friendly, there is nothing objectionable here. The game has good visuals, with nice dynamic area transitions, fixed view, natural light, angular modern design. This house reminds me of North by Northwest. There's lovely espionage music and audio cues, but not much music. Usually it's silent. Or it feels silent, because the music at times can fade away into the background. At least enough that you focus more on the silent parts. That does produce a little bit of tension because of the lonely setting, but arguably nothing gets done with the tension. So decide for yourself if that adds or subtracts anything from the game. It didn't bother me. The game has a nice stereotypic cartoony spy movie premise with amusing, cheesy, quippy self-talk. Very few voiceovers, so you have to read mostly, but I enjoyed it. And design-wise, the house, at the very least, can be surprisingly logical, as an actual space where you can move from one room to another. The final panning shot when you complete the game probably will explain this better than I do. And sure, it's a small thing, considering some games are open world, and a lot of time that necessitates that the buildings be logical. That isn't always the case. Sometimes it's bigger inside than outside. So that's a nice touch. But don't expect that to extend to the underground lair parts. I didn't even attempt to think whether or not they made sense. And the puzzle gameplay is fun. Kind of simple at the end of the day, but at the very least there's a uniqueness here in the usage of puzzles where you just have to remember something and transfer it somewhere else. It's not necessarily the most challenging or, perhaps for the more harsh amongst you, fulfilling gaming exercise, but as I've mentioned before on some other reviews, some people prefer the logical approach to puzzle solving, even if that means they're simpler. Some people prefer a puzzle to be easy and make sense, rather than be hard and take a time to complete, because the answer was weird. Although some of you might argue there's a third option, hard and logical, and I decided to put this point here in prose, because the game is short, a nice burst, simplistic puzzles fit into the length, Come on, play it. Engage in Ruby LaRouge's test of wits that at times can feel an awful lot like she's getting us to do our chores.
Cheap, cheap, cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap.